Coming up now in your spoiler-free wrestling news rundown, an injury has taken place that could impact the lineup for AEW Double or Nothing later this month in Las Vegas. We've also got news on Scott D'Amore possibly starting a new wrestling promotion, and we've also got updates on an unfortunate fan incident that took place during Ring of Honor tapings in Edmonton last week. Before we get to today's news rundown, don't forget to subscribe and click the notifications bell so you don't miss out on any more videos from the wrestling channel. And there is concern in AEW right now that one of the main matches for AEW Double or Nothing later this month from Las Vegas is going to have to be changed. Eddie Kingston, who is scheduled to be in the Anarchy in the Arena match on the show, he'll team with Bryan Danielson and FTR against Jack Perry, Kazuchika Okada, and the Young Bucks. However, Kingston suffered a legitimate injury on Saturday at NJPW Resurgence. Kingston was defending his strong openweight championship against Gabe Kidd on the show in a no-rope last man standing match. In the final move of the match, Kidd won the title from Kingston after delivering a suplex to his opponent through a table from the apron to the outside. As Kingston was going through the table, his leg crashed hard on the guardrail, and it is believed that he suffered a legitimate injury here. However, the extent of his injury is not known. So Brian Alvarez would later report that Kingston was limping around backstage. Dave Meltzer would report on Sunday that there's concern that he could miss Double or Nothing, but everybody was keeping their fingers crossed. And now on Monday, PW Insider has reported that Kingston is set to undergo medical testing to determine the extent of the injury and whether or not he'll be able to go for the pay-per-view later this month. So all we know is that he's going to undergo further testing this week and that everybody is sort of keeping their fingers crossed that he'll be good for Double or Nothing. Speaking of Double or Nothing, a major match was made for it on Rampage on Saturday night. So if you're not in the habit of watching Rampage, you may have missed this, but Adam Copeland has issued a challenge to Malachi Black, but not just for any match, a barbed wire steel cage match. So Adam Copeland versus Malachi Black, Double or Nothing, barbed wire steel cage. And of course, we've seen Copeland acting strange and like there's some evilness lurking within him after he took the mist, the poison mist from the House of Black. So what is going on with Adam Copeland? We'll find out more when he has a barbed wire steel cage match with Malachi Black at Double or Nothing on May 26th. And Orange Cassidy revealed on AEW Dynamite last week that Chuck Taylor's career might be over. And in the Wrestling Observer newsletter on Friday, Dave Meltzer wrote that unfortunately what Orange Cassidy said on last week's show is mainly true. Chuck Taylor is dealing with a severe ankle injury. There has been what's called bone necrosis, and he is going in for surgery, and there is concern that he will not be able to resume his in-ring career afterwards. However, Fightful Select is reporting that Taylor has been training to work in a backstage role in the company. He's done some work as a producer and as a coach, so it's possible if his in-ring career is over that he could transition to a backstage role in the company. But unfortunately, it's entirely possible that Chuck Taylor has wrestled his last match. There was also an incident during the Ring of Honor tapings in Edmonton last week. There was a post on Reddit from someone who was at the show and had mentioned that there was a fan in the front row who was yelling out the most vulgar things to Sky Blue during her match at Ring of Honor, and that Sky Blue left the ring area very quickly after her match, and that her opponent, Rachel Ellering, and the referee in the match, Aubrey Edwards, were quick in getting that fan thrown out of the building. So both of them, both Rachel Ellering and Aubrey Edwards, commented on this. Rachel Ellering wrote, "The speed in which Ref Aubrey and I got out last night post-match to get this creep was remarkable. Olympic medalist speeds. I've never in my career heard such vulgar things being said to talent during a match. Sexual harassment is not heckling." Aubrey Edwards then also commented on what happened. She said, "If you yell disgusting, vile, hateful things at my coworkers, I will make sure your ass gets kicked out. There is no place for that in wrestling. Heckling is fine, but when you've made the performers, me included, feel uncomfortable in their place of work, you've gone too far." Sky Blue also responded to what happened, and she wrote, I'm beyond overwhelmed with all the love and support. Thank you, everyone. You have no idea how much it's appreciated. Let's make sure the future generations of women wrestlers don't have to deal with this shit. All right, a few more injury updates. Anthony Henry is medically cleared to return. You might remember he suffered a broken jaw in a match for Deadlock Pro Wrestling in March, and he was subsequently released from AEW a few days later. But then a few days after that, Tony Khan went back on his decision and said that Anthony Henry will return to AEW/ROH when he is medically cleared. And it turns out that's now. He is medically cleared, said he could be back as early as this week. Powerhouse Hobbs also posted an injury update to Twitter, or X, or whatever it's called now. He wrote that he was having his first physical therapy session 3 weeks after having surgery for a patellar tendon repair. So typical recovery time for the injury that he suffered is about 6 months to a year, depending on the severity of the injury. And of course, he suffered that injury on the April 24th edition of AEW Dynamite when he was challenging Jon Moxley for the IWGP World Championship. So it's going to be a while. We won't see Powerhouse Hobbs again until at the earliest November, December. He's going to be out for some time. And there were a couple of injuries that resulted in wrestlers being pulled from the WWE King of the Ring tournament and the Queen of the Ring tournament. Bobby Lashley was pulled from the tournament. He was scheduled to wrestle Tama Tonga on SmackDown. He was replaced by Angelo Dawkins in that match. And also Zelina Vega was supposed to wrestle Shayna Baszler on a WWE house show this weekend. However, she's injured as well and was replaced by Maxine Dupree, who promptly lost. So Shayna Baszler moves on in the Queen of the Ring tournament. Now, the nature of either injury has not been disclosed. For Bobby Lashley, he hasn't wrestled since a house show in France the night after Backlash on May the 5th. And Zelina Vega hasn't wrestled since early April. However, we don't know anything about their injuries or how long they're going to be out for. And here's a bit of interesting news for the Canadian wrestling fans on the channel. Scott D'Amore is doing something. So Scott D'Amore, he was released from TNA Wrestling. He was the president of TNA Wrestling. The company released him earlier this year, and we're now finding out a little bit more about what D'Amore is going to do in his post-TNA wrestling life. Now, a lot of people have brought up that D'Amore is quite wealthy. Apparently, he's done very well in real estate. He lives out in the Windsor area in Ontario. He has filed a few trademarks that I think are notable. So earlier this month, D'Amore filed to trademark some interesting terms. He filed to trademark the name Maple Leaf Wrestling. Now, if you're from the Toronto area, you know all about Maple Leaf Wrestling. This was the promotion. At one point, it was an NWA territory run by Jack Tunney. Then WWE scooped in and bought the territory. They would continue to run shows under Maple Leaf Wrestling, the name Maple Leaf Wrestling, on television in Canada for some time. WWE at one point owned the name Maple Leaf Wrestling. I guess they didn't bother to continue to trademark it. Scott D'Amore now owns it. And he's also filed to trademark the term Grand Prix Wrestling. So we'll keep you up to date on how this develops. But Scott D'Amore doing something, and it involves the names Maple Leaf Wrestling and Grand Prix Wrestling. But one thing we know for sure, D'Amore is not leaving the wrestling industry. He plans on continuing in it.